Hey, this is Ollie from Seagulls, and I'm hanging out with Rob from Front Row Live.
Ollie, I've been obsessed with this album since it dropped, and you are seriously my new favorite band, and I'm so excited that we get to talk about this album. Talk to me about that creative process of such an incredible, magnificent, debut album of Open Up Your Head.
I guess it's been like quite a drawn out process. It hasn't felt like a drawn out process, but it has been because it's got Call Me Out, which is the first song we released. We recorded that in 2016, and it's the same version. It's had a new mix, but it's the same version. So technically you could say it's taken 4 years to make it, which sounds a lot long, but really the bulk of it was done last year. We for the first time ever, we booked 4 weeks in the studio and just every day, going and making music. And that just gave us this time to explore the songs and actually flesh them out. Because before that it was just we've got a song, we've got one day in the studio, just go in, make it and run away, But this time it's been really amazing to just try loads of different things. And loads of these songs, especially the last ones we recorded, we just got to spend so much time on them and just try so many different versions. So there's some really dodgy versions hiding somewhere, but it all kind of led to these final ones. But yeah, it was amazing. Such a amazing opportunity to be able to make an album. It's we love it.
I feel like you guys were careful with the process of a debut album, and which is why you guys took your time before you actually released a debut, because you've had singles and EPs in the past. But what was the actual idea for taking, I don't want to say this long, but for taking your time with the album?
Yeah, I mean, the thing at the start, we just wanted to release loads of music because we wanted people to know the words at the shows. And yeah, I think that because we knew we could just keep releasing, so it wasn't we felt this big pressure to release an album. And I think it got to the point where if we're going to do it, we want to do it properly. And yeah, like you say, we could have done it at any point in the last kind of maybe 2 or 3 years, but it was about getting these songs right and getting a body of work that fit together and that we were really proud of. Not that we weren't proud of the EPs, but it was definitely a process of being this, we want the album to be like this. And the song Forever, we recorded that at the same time as our second EP, but we knew we were this is an album song and this needs to be a central part of the album. So it's kind of always been on our mind while doing the EPs that, we're going to do this big thing, this big thing. That's kind of why we did the Under Exit Lights EP, which is the last one, because that was only 6 months before the album. So it was we have these songs, but we know they're not necessarily right for the album. And that's kind of what that last EP came out of.
Now, it's interesting because I did notice that you guys did release Open Up Your Head last year, the single, but it didn't make it to the album. So what was the idea behind that?
Well, yeah, we never actually planned to have that song on the album. That's the only one I think that's not on an EP or anything. But when we were coming up trying to come up with names, it was quite a long process, and Henry came up with that. Why don't we use that again? We thought, maybe it doesn't matter that it's been out. We were not really. It's kind of a little callback to fans, but that kind of idea of Open Up Your Head was kind of fit the themes of the album really well, because it's all about exploring yourself and there's a lot of it was based on Henry had a kind of head injury. It's about half the songs are him kind of processing that, and it's just about getting your feelings out. And I think there's a kind of thing especially with guys, it's not, you're never going to be tell someone your feelings, but then for some reason it's totally fine to write it in a song and then sing it to the world. It's one of those kind of weird juxtapositions. But yeah, I think to us, Open Up Your Head kind of summed all of that up, and we were for the fans will know that that's a song, and it's kind of a little, like I said, a little callback to that.
The fact that this record was so personal because of that experience for him, were you guys able to get involved with the writing process when Henry kind of put these songs out to start recording?
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, a third of the songs are written by Rory, our guitarist, but they kind of do follow these same themes. But a lot of it was he'd actually come in with the whole kind of song. But with Henry, he's very involved in creating the tracks. So it's like he'll come in with just, that wasn't phrased very well, but he'll like come in with like the song. So it's like, you know, chords and melody and stuff with a kind of rough idea of what he wants. But then just that act of all of us throwing our ideas in together, that's what makes it into a Seagulls song. Like the push and pull, because we all have quite, well, while we all love like indie rock, which is, you know, obviously you can tell that from listening to it, we all love like lots of kind of varied music. So it's all about us injecting that into it and pulling it all these different ways into, eventually into like Seagulls songs.
How important was it having Larry Hibbitt produce this EP or this album, knowing that, you know, in the past he was a vocalist for a hardcore band? So did that help with like, did you see that he helped Henry get into like, or try new things with his vocals this time around?
Interesting enough, considering Larry came from a hard rock band, like you say, he was kind of one of the ones for pushing it to be kind of poppy, which we quite liked, I think.
Wow.
But it's kind of, I think, with that, because he did quite a few really amazing albums, rock albums recently, like the Sundara Karma we really liked, and Dinosaur Pilot, which is amazing. Yeah. And just, I think, coming from that rock background, when you then put this pop layering on top of it, it actually comes from a genuine place. It's kind of not like a pop artist doing a rock song. It's kind of like putting on a suit and, you know, then move on to the next thing. But coming from rock, you have that power, and then just adding layers to that, it makes it a lot more genuine, I think. But yeah, I mean, Larry's great in terms of guitar music as well. Like he obviously, he knows his way around the guitar too, and it's helpful having that approach too. But yeah, like I said, he's one of the poppiest kind of, you know, he was one of the poppiest leading guys in the studio. He loves his synths and stuff, for sure.
I love the energy in the beginning of the album that you guys started with Transplant. Talk to me about the creative process of that song in particular, and for you specifically, like how did you get challenged either by Larry or just by the band, as far as like the way that you did the drums?
Yeah, I mean that song, it was really fun to record that one, especially because there's just so many like moving parts in that, and I was described it as an indie symphony. People tell me off for saying that, but I think it is. It's just like that's the real challenge in that song was, we came up with all these amazing parts, and there's so many like little hooks and things. Like I play all the synths as well on the track, so it's like finding a way to slot all these in nicely together without overcrowding it, without everything kind of, you know, without one thing overpowering it. And I think that Larry was instrumental in that. And it's just, yeah, like I said, knowing when to lift this guitar part, when to lift that. And in terms of the drums, I was just like, that one's like, I'd say that's probably the most Killers inspired song. And it's just that the drummer for the Killers, Ronnie Rinucci, he just knows exactly when to let it rip and when to like pull back to let the song kind of shine. We always say that the song Read My Mind by the Killers is like the ultimate like indie rock song for us, and that's always been a big inspiration. And I think that kind of energy is what we kind of injected into Transplant.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Killers because towards the end of the album, You Over Anyone, I love the ballad, but it did give me a Brendan Flowers kind of like vibe with his voice. Yeah. Was that another influence as well for this record? Yeah,
I mean that Henry loves the Killers, and like obviously we all do. There's someone said, was it Dust Line Fairy Tale? There's a song that sounds kind of similar. Okay. But yeah, and I think it, especially that album Samstown we love, and there's the kind of like piano intro and outro, and then yeah, that's definitely something we definitely wanted, that quiet moment. And especially before that last song, Moving On, it's kind of really nice to just kind of come inside yourself a little bit and have a little piano ballad. We actually tried, we must have recorded about 6 or 7 versions of that song trying to find the right piano. I think we spent a whole day in a really fancy studio just for the piano, and then didn't end up using it, and then just ended up using like a really rubbish one that Larry found. You know, you can't beat the crappy old piano sometimes.
So what was that like creative process with all of you guys? Because I love that. I love the way that Henry's like dark lyrics kind of marinated with like the bright guitars, and just like it didn't feel like such a dark record. when you listen to the sonics and stuff. So like, how did you guys kind of make that happen in the studio?
I think it's just all making music. We just love live music, and like writing the songs, especially writing them in a rehearsal room. When we do that, it's just like, that's what we love. And that's just, that sound is, because we grew up in like the 2000s, which was such a great time. You had like the Killers, which we mentioned a lot, the Strokes, and even bands like Arcade Fire, which were quite guitar heavy at the start. Like those bands really influenced us, and it's just, that's just kind of naturally in our veins, and that's what naturally comes out when we pick up instruments. And that it's that juxtaposition that we kind of, when we wrote the song Call Me Out, that was the first time we kind of hit on that vein, and like kind of felt that we finally written something that we knew was what we'd been striving for. And yeah, that juxtaposition is, I feel that's quite an English thing, is, you know, like the Smiths or something, sing really morbid lyrics while dancing. And that's just, you know, cry while you dance is definitely a bit of an ethos that we had. And ultimately, we just like fun music, you know. That's what, if it sounds rad, we'll just be like, if that sounds sick, you know, stick it on there. And it's kind of, yeah, that people have said that to us. It's a bit like a Trojan horsing people, you know. You're dancing to this record, and then, you know, the next time you listen to it, you kind of start to hear like, oh, actually, this is really sad, or, you know, this is making me think about something like in my life. And that was important to us, having it really relatable.
Another cool thing is that, you know, like you mentioned, it's like the dark lyrics, but at the same time, it's such an arena ready kind of record. Like it's more anthemic in a sense. So, I mean, what inspired the anthemic sound or the arena kind of sound? Because I feel like sometimes for artists to be able to do that, it's because they've experienced playing in arenas before and kind of like remember that sound or that feeling. So what kind of inspired you guys in the studio for that?
Yeah, I guess it's coming around to that, seeing bands live. We've seen so many bands live in arenas, and you just like, the spectacle of that is amazing, and it's just such like an all-encompassing like force, seeing that. And like I said, it's just, that's what's naturally come through just from seeing this, and like knowing, you know, you see someone on stage, it's like, I want to be on that stage, I want to be doing that. And, you know, you kind of pick up the moves, and, you know, it's not like it's calculated or anything, but it's like seems so, flows naturally from us. It's just like, we want to make the biggest songs we possibly can. That's just always been our ethos. I definitely don't feel like we've been like, we need to play this so that when we play an arena, we don't feel stupid. It's just like, you know, that's what we love. And that's what we kind of have always aimed for, just the biggest sounding songs we can do. I think Henry loves that. Loves the Kings of Leon as well. And I think that's that was it. Only by Night. That album was like, exactly when we were like 16, and came at like the perfect time for us to like. And we actually, Andrew, Henry, and I saw them at Leeds Festival. I think it must have been like 2009 or something, headlining, and that was just like mind blowing to us, having not seen something like that massive before.
I'm sure that kind of impacted you in so many ways.
Exactly, and the fact that we ended up playing that festival was crazy, and just like, we've been where all these kids have been, like, and now we're on the stage. Crazy, such a crazy feeling.
Man, that's awesome. And lastly, you know, with this album, all 14 tracks are incredible. Like, there is no one standalone like record on the or song on this record. What was the biggest challenge with this album? Was it a particular song that was just difficult to finalize or create, or even just start to write?
Yeah, I guess actually going back to You Over Anyone, that's probably been the longest like development we've had for a song. Because like I mentioned, Forever, we recorded that years ago, first recorded that years ago, but actually that didn't change at all, since the re-recording was just about getting the sound right. Whereas You Over Anyone, the first time we played that, was like this almost like Coldplay-esque ballad, and it was really terrible. And that took quite a lot of finessing to like strip it down more, till it ended up literally just being me and Henry in a room playing together. So that probably took about 2 or 3 years to get to that point, you know. I'm sure there was points when we were like, this isn't working, I'm not sure if it's going to go on, but I think thankfully we stuck to our guns, and quite a lot of people have really connected with that track, which is like, we've done it right. The same kind of, that's the song Weight in Gold as well, went through a kind of similar process.
That was another favorite for sure.
awesome. And like it's like that one went through so many weird versions. Like it started off a bit Peter Gabriel and like very acoustic, so like this synth layering, and then we kind of we did this like national thing, kind of inspired by Fake Empire, like kind of slow brooding piano all the way through, and eventually what we ended up with was kind of a weird mishmash of every single version we'd done of it, and it was kind of like, oh, just like, you know, throw everything at it in whatever order, and it's kind of ended up right. And that was definitely like a Larry's call, and he was definitely really important in making that track kind of sing and reach that final version, when I think literally it was only the very last version we were like, okay, this is it, this works, like it's great. And that, like, and it's amazing as well to see people connect with that. I think it makes all that effort seem worth it, you know.
What was it about the song that you guys believed in it so much that no matter how long it took, like you guys still chose to finalize it and add it to the album?
I think it's that, like, the lyrics, it's kind of this like moment of calm, and I think that like the lyrics reflect this, you know, trying to live in the moment, enjoy this kind of stillness that you can get when you're like, everything is really nice. I'm not worrying about what's coming next. I'm not worrying about what's been before. And I think we wanted to musically like honor that and make sure that it reflected those lyrics, was important to us. And we knew it just had like a really just like a nice melody and chorus as well. And it was like, it felt like once we had it right, it would be worth that kind of like drawn out process.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations with the album. Like I said, I've been listening to it nonstop since it dropped, and I'm glad that you guys took your time for this album. I think it wouldn't have been received the same way had you guys done it earlier. But congratulations with that. Congratulations with Island Records, and definitely look forward to hopefully getting to catch a live show whenever it's possible, because I feel like this album needs the live show.
Absolutely, yeah. That's kind of a little bit torturous not being able to play. And like half of these songs, we've never played them live as well. So when we finally do, it's going to be really special. And yeah, we were going to get to America as soon as we can. Like we came and did 2 shows, and that didn't quite feel like enough. So yeah, we're definitely going to be back.